Good morning and welcome to Headline Focus here live on Core Politics with me, Rob Double. It is Friday the 20th of April 2018. Let's have a look at what's making the political news today. So to start off with something from Brexit over in Brussels. The EU have comprehensively rejected Britain's proposal to solve the Irish border issue. Now this is a big front pager in the Telegraph. Reports also that Michel Barnier has halted work on the post-Brexit trade deal talks until the Irish border stalemate has been resolved. In other words, a solution or some form of progress has really been found. Now, the Brexit War Cabinet will now hold weekly meetings, so to try and resolve this issue and indeed keep Brexit momentum moving forward and attempt a way to find basically a solution to the deadlock. Now, the key problem here is time. The European Union want the Irish border issue and indeed most of the withdrawal agreement to be completed by June, when the next European Council meeting is happening and the EU 27 can sign off on the agreement, particularly over the Irish border. Now, also, in terms of politics, Theresa May is under a bit of a between a rock and a hard place here, because obviously she needs to resolve the Irish border issue, but at the same time, if she doesn't, or if she fails to, remember that how she agreed to that backstop option with the EU last December during the first phase of the talks, phase one of the talks. She signed up to the idea that if there's no solution found over the Irish border, the situation will arise whereby Northern Ireland will effectively stay inside the customs union. Why is that important? Well, if Theresa May wants the rest of the UK to leave the customs union, that means there is going to be a difference between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK, aka possibly a border in the Irish Sea, something which the DUP, who are obviously working with the government in terms of a majority in the Commons, are absolutely opposed to. So very significant in terms of where the talks are. Probably no doubt some news in the following weeks as to how that's being resolved, both here and in Brussels. Next up, a bit of a cabinet dispute happening, according to the Times front pager. Cabinet row over Rudd's decision, Amber Rudd, of course, the Home Secretary, to delay the immigration bill until next year. Now, this is basically moving faster with her proposals for a post-Brexit immigration system. This immigration bill was going to cover to a large extent what the immigration was going to look like. Very prescient at the moment in terms of what's happening with the Windrush migrant story in the news at the moment. But Rudd's facing pressure from particularly the Work and Pensions Secretary Esther McVey and Commons leader Andrea Leadsom, as well as others, according to reports in the Times, in order to bring this immigration bill forward. The reason Rudd is apparently holding off is that she's waiting for new research she commissioned on the economic impact of immigration cuts and waiting for that to be ready before the bill is released. Something, though, bit of cabinet tensions there, but reportedly the Home Secretary is definitely getting her way. Finally, one more story. This is on the back of, I suppose, well, the last story regarding immigration, regarding the biggest story this week, which is the Windrush scandal over Commonwealth people who came over decades ago, particularly when they were young, when they were children, when they were babies, have lived their whole lives in the UK, and all of a sudden now, owing to paperwork being destroyed, are faced with the prospect of the UK authorities telling them that they will not have access to public services, or perhaps could be reported, that's been the reports this week. Nick Timothy, who's the former advisor to the Home Secretary, Theresa May, now the Prime Minister, when she was still Home Secretary, and indeed was the Chief of Staff to Theresa May when she was Prime Minister as well, in his article yesterday said May blocked the go-home vans. And this was a story where vans were driven around parts of London and indeed part of the country, basically saying go home if you're an illegal immigrant, and they caused a bit of controversy at the time. Now, these apparently, according to Nick Timothy, were revived and approved while Theresa May was on holiday, and therefore the implication there, she didn't actually know much about them and she didn't approve them. This, however, is disputed by Downing Street, so we've got some different reporting going on here. The Home Secretary said that apparently the pilot was authorised by the former Immigration Minister Matt Harper, but May was informed of the intention to pilot this campaign. Now, that's according to the Downing Street, and so now it's Downing Street's word against Nick Timothy's word in terms of how much blame Theresa May is culpable for in terms of this whole idea of a hostile environment, whole idea of hostile environment in terms of migration and immigration, which caused some, in the reports this week, the Windrush scandal, which has come out in the last few days. May will be in the leaders' retreat of the Commonwealth today at Windsor Castle. She's hoping to push for more action for Russia. She's also in a closed-doors summit. She's due to give a press conference in Marlborough House late this afternoon. It's going to be the first time she's actually been answering questions regarding the Windrush scandal that's happened this week. There should be some interesting lines there. That'll be later on this afternoon. But that's pretty much it for today. And indeed, this week, you're up to date. Don't forget you can find all the latest on what we're doing here in Core Politics on our Facebook page and Twitter, just right here. But from me and all the team here at Core London, have a fantastic weekend ahead. See you on Monday.